Wrist Check Podcast, episode 35.
We had to double check that before we started.
I checked.
But we were right.
It's valid. Gang's back together again. We have a special guest on the couch with us this evening.
A very, very special guest.
JJ, Jessica Owens, the one and only.
Woo! Hi guys, how are you?
We're very good. Very good. Glad to finally have you on the show. This has been some time in the making.
Yes.
But we finally made it happen. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me. I remember meeting you guys and hearing about you, and I know I had friends who were on early on, and I was like, I hope one day I get to do this, and here we are.
You are. Let's go. I love that. Before we get started, we should introduce ourselves for our listeners. My name is Perry.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Rashawn.
And we make up the Wrist Check Podcast. This evening, again, we have our special guest, Jessica. Before we move on, we have to have an honorary wrist check.
Yes.
Ben, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm not Rashawn, so I'm repeating the watch.
Nice.
It's the same one I wore on the John special. So we're going from John to JJ.
Woo! I love that.
It's my green OP41.
Nice.
I still can't tell if I scratched it yet, but when we get there, you will know.
Okay.
How
are you enjoying it?
A lot. I haven't taken it off. I slept in it last night.
It's
the first time I slept in it.
First Rolex. How's it feel?
Great.
Yeah.
Babies first.
Babies first.
Better as time goes on.
Yeah.
I will
nice.
say that.
Have you been wearing it like you're
every single
everywhere?
Day.
Yeah.
So I also, Rashawn knows this, I got a vintage tracker.
I saw that yesterday.
Yeah, it's nice. And
it's really good.
I don't know if I've ever seen you so happy.
I already started messing around with it.
Sure.
Been wearing the watch.
Nice.
Which is why I'm surprised I can't tell if I scratched it yet. But
I
I plan on wearing it for at least the next 4 or 5 episodes.
Okay.
So during our wrist rolls, we'll see if we can count any scratches.
Respect.
On it.
We got 2 green OPs in the podcast.
Yep, in the family.
Respect.
Yeah.
Rashawn, you are repeating a watch.
I am repeating a watch intentionally.
Okay.
Intentionally repeating a watch, and I swore if I were to repeat a watch, this was the watch that I would repeat. So I'm wearing my Oris Momotaro Diver 65. Obviously we all have a connection to Oris.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we love the brand so much. These pieces just tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
They just always do. And this one definitely tells my story. When I first acquired it, of course, the denim was very dark and raw. And since I've been surfing in it so much, you can see that, you know, the denim is actually turning over. I have to get out there again and like put some more work in on it.
You need to put it in the sand.
Yeah. That's something I didn't do.
That's what you need.
Got a lot of salt water, but I didn't like.
Those videos came out amazing. You were hanging out with who while you were in Montauk? Who shot that?
It was. It's like a tag team duo. These guys that instruct over at the Maram Resort in Montauk. So shout out to Christian and Leaf. So I was out with them.
They had you looking very agile.
Yes. I mean, listen, this big boy can move.
I love it.
But it was good. They got some drone shots and the videos all came out amazing. They made me look like a pro. I tell everybody, don't let the videos fool you. I was like
dying.
I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna make it out.
Surfing's hard work.
It is a lot of hard work. Definitely made me consider going to the gym.
Sure. You and me both.
Yes.
I'll go next. I am wearing my vintage Girard Perregaux Gyromatic. This is from the 60s, mid-60s, blue dial. I got it on a royal blue suede strap.
It's been a while since you wear that one.
I've been wearing it. I just it never really like consistently. Yeah. Like I don't wear it for like days on end, but like it gets a couple of spins. This watch, I fell in love with it when I first saw it. Got it through a vintage dealer whom I know online. But my wife,
shout out to Perry's wife.
Shout out to Denise. She was the one who popped off on this for me for my 35th birthday. So I got 2 watches on my 35th birthday because I got this, and then you called me.
Yeah.
I think 2 days after I got this.
Yeah.
For the green OP.
Yeah.
So that was. I always think about the 2, the blue and the green.
Yeah.
It's nice.
That's a good way to look at it.
Not mad.
Color coded.
Have you thought about putting it on another strap? Because
I
that's the
have
original,
actually.
right?
I have. I found some straps online the other day. I was actually on. I think it was on Hodinki's website. They sent me like a little coupon.
Is it because they featured you in an article?
It's
on
not.
Hodinki?
No. I filled out a survey. I think they had going around.
And, like, did you like the article that featured yourself? Yes.
Yes. Hit the thumbs up.
And I got some ideas that I'm gonna play around with this to mix it up a little bit.
It'd be nice on like a vegetable tan.
I was thinking more like mint green.
Mm-hmm.
Even purple might work.
I was looking at purple too.
You know a purple strap.
That won't fit this though.
You know what's funny? And this is not to go off.
Don't mention the fucking metaverse.
No, not to go off the rail, but it was funny because a good friend of mine, he shared his Starbucks, the green sub.
Yeah,
he shared it on a purple NATO, and I was like, oh, that's a real Hulk. I was like, I like that, like
cool. It's a Joker.
Purple. Oh, like a Joker. And I was like, man, that's kind of hot. So when you said purple strap, I was like, oh, that makes sense. It sounds really good.
We'll see. I'm gonna play around, have some fun
for sure.
JJ's got one of my most coveted watches on.
I have. Speaking of birthday watches, was the watch I got for my 25th birthday. It's a Rolex Day-Date 1803 with a champagne dial. I now typically, embarrassingly enough, wear this as a daily. As I said, it's a daily has a little like it's casual, but a little too casual, like a little too much like pushing the borderline of casual, which is basically me. So I think this watch fits me very well, and like something I love is like whenever you see someone with a watch and like does not matter the size, doesn't matter anything, you meet them, you get to know them, and you're like, wow, that watch fits their personality. And I feel like this watch fits me very well.
100%.
It does, and it's a 36. What year is that?
I believe 1976.
Nice. It's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Yeah. There's nothing like a vintage gold watch.
No, like in any vintage Royal Oak, vintage, and like it almost looks more casual.
It does.
For some weird,
they're not so shiny.
They're not so shiny, and like they look so good with a t-shirt. Like it just looks good.
Nothing looks better than old gold.
Yeah.
Old gold is nice.
Like the old gold Piagets. Like
yes.
Again, it takes me back to Key West.
Oh my God.
Gold watches and Key West for some reason just go together.
Gold watches in Florida.
Yeah, it's facts.
Like,
gold Breitlings in Florida.
Sure, I'm not mad at that.
Bust down Tudors in Florida.
No. We'll pass on that.
Yes.
So, JJ.
Yes.
Finally have you on the show. Let's start off. I just want to get into a little bit about who you are, where you're from. And let's start there, and then how you found yourself collecting watches.
I grew up in Chicago. I always spent a lot of time in New York, and my father was always a big watch collector. His first passion is cars, but in order to kind of have a relationship with him, I thought I should get involved in what he wanted to be involved with, and obviously at 12 years old, I couldn't drive a car. And to this day, I'm still not allowed to drive his cars. So I've never gotten in a crash though, so I don't know where that hesitation comes.
That we know of.
Okay.
I'm a very good driver in New York.
Well, that can
I think that's
you can drive.
You're like the best driver anywhere. Then
I've never had any issues, so I think
awesome.
that's good. But I'm a far better watch wearer than driver.
Sure,
so I got into that with him, and really that passion started. We would always watch. He's a big James Bond fan, as well as movies like Le Mans, and the watches were so prominently featured in those films, and like. I'm a little bummed because I grew up with Daniel Craig as Bond, and like the Omegas he wore were stunning, but like I was able to get an Omega Seamaster because I was like, that's what Daniel Craig wore.
Yeah.
Looking back, I wish I would have started earlier because the watches that the prior bonds were, if I was able to pull that card, I would have gotten a pretty incredible Rolex out of it. But that's kind of how my passion started. And I mean, quite honestly, and I've said this before, if it was coins or anything else, I would have got into that because I really just wanted a relationship with my father. But I'm really, really happy it was watches because it's just opened up. I've made some incredible friends and I've just had so much fun, and I was able to turn up just such a genuine love with my father into a job, which I can't be more happy about.
That's incredible. It's funny. We've talked about the connection with Bond and watches, and similar to you, me and my dad actually connected over not watches necessarily, but Bond. My dad was a huge James Bond fan, and we talked about often like my dad's Bond is Sean Connery. Mine is Pierce Brosnan. Yeah. And so for me, when I think Bond, I do think Omega.
Yes.
And so the Seamaster, I think that's probably why I'm such an Omega fan.
I think that's where my love of it stemmed from, was completely, and like when I got my Seamaster, I had gone through quite a significant health issue. I've had many significant brain injuries, and I got my Seamaster because I was like, well, Bond wore it and that survived anything. So I like use that as like I can wear this Seamaster and like that'll give me a bit of like motivation of strength to just be tough with it. And like, yeah, it's absolutely, I think that's where my love stemmed from, because I wasn't, think about like, now you see Omega on the carpet featured so prominently. And like, that's a testament to how phenomenal their PR is. But like, back in like when Daniel Craig wore that, or when Pierce Brosnan wore it, celebrities weren't really wearing Omega. No. Omega was not the brand to have. They were phenomenal watches, and the Speedmaster's always been such a phenomenal watch. Right. But like, that wasn't the watch to have by any way. I mean, like Daniel Craig and Pierce put Omega back on the map.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Craig rocking that solid gold Aquaterra on the red carpet was crazy.
I mean, it was fire.
Daniel Craig rocking anything kind of works.
But then now it's like it's so interesting too, because when you look at Omega's place in the market right now, they're known now for more than just the Speedmaster. Like it's moving into a space where it's like people are recognizing the Aquaterras. They recognize the Seamaster.
Look at the Constellations
having a moment. Is having a big moment right now.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my favorite novelties of the past year, which if anybody's followed me on Instagram, they know, is the green Speedmaster. I love that watch. Yes, I think that's
so good.
That's incredible. And shockingly, I'm smaller. That watch is 42 millimeters, and it's a testament. I wore that watch for weeks on end, and it was so comfortable. It was such a phenomenal watch. And the thing that was so cool about it is it looks black, but something I love about watches is then it's like, no, look closer at this detail. And it's such a striking green in the sun.
Yes. 100%.
So when you and your dad were connecting over watches, how did that start? Did that start just you kind of like rummaging through his collection, or were you guys visiting fairs?
No, it was never, quite honestly, what was so interesting was I had never gone to a watch event until I was about 19. It was such a, what's wild about like even working in the industry for the past year and like being more of a prominently collecting for the past like 4 or 5 years. What was so different prior for the first kind of majority of my collecting and learning about watches, it was only me and my dad. It was so protected. There was no other community. I had an Instagram page, but like it wasn't
a thing yet.
And like he wasn't super sociable with his collection ever. He's never been. Like it was such a thing that him and I shared that like I think it was very sweet, because I think he wanted almost to have that be our protected thing.
That's awesome. It's so special.
I was going to say that definitely speaks volumes to your watch knowledge as well, because of course, one thing about what we do, about with the show is, shedding a light on different people and demographics and different groups, because you wouldn't think that women know much about watches or what's under the hood, etc. The same as like our demographic, people of color knowing anything about watches or anything like that. But where you are in your career is very impressive, because I think you are one of the women that kind of pioneered this.
Thank you.
This movement of women that actually step into this arena is like, oh, we could fight back too.
This cool thing that's about it too, though, is it's not even like a stepping into the arena. It's almost like a reclaiming.
Yeah. Yes, well, it's a reclaim. Yes,
it's not to say many doors weren't slammed in my face. I sent a lot of cold emails. I really wanted to get a job in this industry based off my own merit, and like I didn't have any prior experience. And like speaking, and I'm sure you guys can speak to this too, as a 20-year-old. Speaking to say, oh, I actually have a knowledge. I do have a collection, but I have a genuine knowledge. I'm not just some kid who has a collection whose parents bought them all this. I actually have a genuine care. And like, I think being able to articulate that was very difficult in email or and like, as sociable as I am, I'm a bit of an ambivert, and it's very hard for me to ask for things or put myself out there. So like telling all these people who like auction houses are an old boys club, or a lot of the watch companies are an old boys club, that having this 21-year-old girl say, I want to work here, when they're like, well, why? Like,
exactly.
Why? And
they're like, I don't get it.
Even after I speak to the knowledge I had, which like looking back wasn't, you learn something every day. You know, it's just such a vast pool of knowledge, but like, you have to have tenacity and you have to keep trying. And like, there were so many times where I was like, I'm so off put by this. I can go work at a bank. I can go, I'm a big math nerd, and like, that was my love. But I was like, no, I have the privilege when I'm young to try and do something I love. And like, I'm very proud of myself that I stuck with it, because like, it was like 3 or 4 years of really trying that like I got nowhere. And like, I sent a cold email to Phillips, and like, I will forever like have respect for Paul Boutros, because he responded.
Paul Boutros is such a nice guy.
And gave me a chance and said, come and be a viewing assistant. And like, that was my dream, because I just got to be surrounded by watches where, you know, this was maybe your only time getting to see them, because if they go into a private collection, these are once in a lifetime watches. And like, I'm forever grateful to him, because he saw something in like, it's very hard to come off a page in an email. You really can't. And like, he was just like, here's a young girl who wanted to come here, and like, I'm forever grateful for him.
That's awesome. Part of the reason why I use the word reclaim too is just because like, historically, when you think about it, it's
women started watches.
This is what I'm saying. Like, women started watches.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like, the wristwatch was
for women.
Was a woman's accessory.
Yes, it was.
Right. Even we talked about it once. I don't know if we ever talked about the show, but we went to Sotheby's. We had this conversation about minute repeaters.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yes.
Right. And so now we then moved to an age where it's sort of like people are confused that women are into watches.
And women are wearing them.
It's always been a thing. When I think about like, so my connection with watches really started with my grandparents. I always saw my grandparents wear watches. My grandfather had a watch collection. You know, my grandmother wasn't as into it as he was, but she wore watches. She had a collection of watches. And it was just part of the culture back then, because it wasn't also, we didn't have this thing about, I guess they didn't have this thing about it where they weren't checking out movements. It wasn't about what's under the hood, you know, the history of the watch. It was just like, yo, this is a nice watch. It's handsome. It's pretty. I want to wear it.
It keeps time.
If
it was courts who care, it kept time. That's what mattered.
100%.
And sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, and you know, to move into a space now where it's like people are looking at you like kind of puzzled, like, wow, this is a real thing. And it's like, this has always been a thing. But what's awesome is to see these communities within the watch community bubbling up, connecting, supporting one another, and then bringing more people into the fold. I have to say, personally, from my experience, being embraced in the watch community, one of the most diverse communities I've had the privilege to participate in. I've never gone into anything else and it felt so welcome, right? And I didn't think I would be. There's almost something about it where you do kind of feel like there's a barrier to entry in terms of price point or just class. And most of the people I meet, they're like, if you walk in with a Rolex, they're kind of like, boring. Like, what else do you have? Like, that's cool, but like, what else do you have? And I think that's so interesting, you know, to exist in a space like that now. And knowing Paul Boutros, who's giving you this opportunity to come and learn side by side, I think is incredible.
I mean, not to embarrass you guys, but I think that fully it was a testament to just how friendly and fun you guys right off the bat were. I mean, when we first met, all of you were just a riot. You were so sociable. It was very easy to talk to you. And I think what was missing in the watch industry for so long was just that ease and like that friendliness. And like some of the most friendly people I've met are from the watch industry or are collectors, and they've been collecting for decades. It's not like there weren't friendly people in the industry, but I think I think with the pandemic, the one positive thing that came out of it was there was the longing for the community.
Yes.
And then when things started opening up again, is that community came back in just full force, and everyone just wanted to get together and wanted to come out again.
People wanted to be around people again.
And like it was really nice to just see tons of new faces, and like there was always diversity in collectors. They're just in females and race and religion and whatever that was, but it just I don't think was on the forefront. It wasn't really represented just because it wasn't known or like they weren't at events, but that didn't mean it didn't that didn't mean it didn't exist. Like,
of course.
I think people realize, to your point, that after the pandemic, that it's like, is my watch nice enough to be in this room? And it's like, that didn't matter.
And
it didn't matter.
Yeah, as long as you own do you own a watch? Even if you don't, do you like watches? Yes, then this is for you.
Well, you know what? And I think I remember my first watch event, and I've said this to people, is like, the most important thing is you have a desire to learn. Like, it really doesn't matter what's on your wrist, but also like, I've told people who are like a little worried to go to a watch event, I go, the best way I can articulate walking into a watch event, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, is like, even though there's always going to be someone I know they're like at this point, like it feels like walking into the lunchroom where you don't, you don't know if there's going to be a friend you can sit with. And like, even if you know you're going to know, people are like, my God, you're throwing the fucking event. It doesn't matter. Like sometimes you just have that fear of like, oh my God, am I going to have someone to sit with? And like, it's so silly, but like, and I don't know why that this breeds that, because like people and like you're comfortable, but like it's a very interesting thing. And I still tell people, I'm like, I've gone to countless ones and like I still get that feeling, so like just come. Like someone will talk to you, and like it doesn't matter what you have on your wrist. If you just have a desire to learn, like the amount of guys will just like spill their knowledge and share it.
They can't wait.
You'd be very surprised like about that. And I think that's great.
I was gonna say, I think what that happens because there is this fear of maybe my watch isn't good enough. Or maybe I don't know enough. But now you're starting to see more and more that people are actually accepting. Like, I think it's actually cooler to talk to somebody that knows nothing about watches more than someone that does.
And I've told many of my friends this, I go, it's so refreshing at this point to admit someone say, oh, I'm not sure. Or like, oh, I got to check that reference. Or, because like, I think like in the past, like you would see things or you would consume content and you'd be like, oh my God, I don't know all my reference numbers, or I don't know everything. And like, the truth is like, there are very few guys who know all the reference numbers, and like props to them. Like they are encyclopedias and they deserve all the props. But like all of us sitting here don't know every reference number.
I do not. I suck with reference numbers.
Not at all. But like, that doesn't make our passion any less worthy. That just means we value other things in collecting. And like everybody collects differently, and like that's okay, and that should be championed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So you get a gig working with Paul Boustros.
Yeah. As a viewing assistant, in
viewing
college.
Assistant. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was the time of my life. I think I think I realized that this is really what I wanted to do, because I was like a junior in college, and I was like, I think I want to be into watches. Like I realized like this could be a career, and I cold emailed tons of people, and then come the December sale, which was actually it was the sale that the Rake collaborated with. So Wei Ko was there, who's another very serious collector, and it was so much fun. And I remember a lot of the other viewing assistants were like, what's a minute repeater? And I was like, okay, this is, and I had a riot, like in like handling watches that I just had dreamed about seeing. And like, it wasn't work for me. And I think that's when it clicked with me that I was like, okay, if I really study, and if I really try and hone in my knowledge, and I really try and, meet people and like put myself out there more. Which is funny, because I think sitting here, you guys are very surprised that I am like a little shy, since I'm pretty open.
I would have never thought.
Like it's very hard for me to like genuinely be like, oh, like, are you hiring? Like, I cringe even saying that now. So like the thought that I was like, okay, if I just like really master the skill as much as I could, I'll just make myself as qualified as possible.
Awesome.
And that's really what I did in like the past 3 years, like since junior year.
And
But
so then, and that led you to, you're now at Watchonista.
yeah, and like a fun anecdote to share is right before I started working at Watchonista, one of my like favorite people in the industry, she's a journalist, Barbara Palumbo. She interviewed me for a piece in Revolution, which was Waco's other magazine.
Okay.
And so it kind of came full circle. Is right
Yes.
before like I started my official job, my first official job in the industry. The man who collaborated with the first Phillips sale I worked in, I then was in his magazine as a
How did
collector.
that feel?
Surreal.
Yeah. Like
Isn't it-
I'm because as I said,
Yeah.
like it was a struggle for me. Like it
Sure.
really was like I really had to work hard trying to get a job in this industry. And that happening, like, yeah, that's so, and like I love her for just featuring me, and like the piece she wrote was just so glowing and not deserved at all. But it was amazing. Like
It was deserved.
and
yeah.
I had the biggest like smile on my face that happened.
It's great to be acknowledged.
Mhm.
It really, really is.
Yeah. The industry definitely needs you.
Thank you. But that's very nice. But thank
Yeah.
you. Like,
Yes, for sure.
So we got some watches on the table.
Mhm.
A
a mix.
mix, which is great.
A
This
great
is
mix.
this is quite the mix. We got a little bit of everything. There's some stunning pieces on the table.
Mhm.
We're gonna start with the earliest piece,
Okay.
Baby's first AP.
Yeah.
Tell us about this piece here. So you got this is this a 20?
It's quite old. I got it like 6 or 7 years ago. And I've told this story a few times, but it's rather entertaining. My father and I, we had a rule when we were collecting that we would get carte blanche on whatever watch each other purchased.
Okay.
As a way to like bond. And
Yeah.
our tastes are very different, putting it mildly. And I dated 2 boys back to back who had Royal Oaks. And
Okay.
I was never a fan of Royal Oak because I think he wasn't. And so, I was just like always, and then first boy I dated had one. I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. And then second boy I dated, I was like, oh, I kind of love this. And then similar to the boys.
Like the watch.
And then
I love that.
I got that without asking him.
Okay.
And to this day, he still won't say he likes it. And then I have a 26 millimeter gold Royal Oak as well.
Yeah.
I love that. That's probably my favorite watch, my most worn watch. I think the Royal Oak is one of the most comfortable daily watches one can wear. And I love AP as a brand. I love everything they stand for. And I absolutely love that watch. But I find it funny because it was also kind of the first time I rebelled against Dad and got something that he still to this day says.
That's why he won't admit.
Yeah. And like my mother loved it though, so I was like, well, that's all that matters. Like, and
Yes.
I love that watch.
There's something about Royal Oak.
Rolex, Royal Oak.
Yeah. That when it's on the small side, it's just that much
Rolex.
more attractive.
Mhm.
I don't like jumbos.
What?
I don't.
Wow.
Listen, smaller the better for me.
It's
Well,
same.
Jumbo's a 39, so it's
Yeah.
the third biggest size.
I
in the
would
make.
go. I would go 37.
34
we
even.
agree. 37
I
is
think
the
37
perfect
is the
size.
sweet
Yes.
spot.
37 is the
perfect.
best
It's-
size, I think, all around
for
for
Royal
every.
Oak?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Fire.
the 37 wears like a 39. The jumbo wears like
Exactly.
a 41.
Exact. That's why I don't
Because
like
I
jumbo.
that's a 31, but it wears a little bigger, and
Yeah.
that's what I like.
It looks and feels like my Omega, like a 34
Yeah,
Omega.
and so this
Like-
one has an automatic movement
Uh-huh.
in
Yep.
that case, right?
Mhm.
And I think we were talking about before. You said you think it's a JLC movement that's got to
Yeah.
be in there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Is this 70s as well?
No.
This is
it's,
earlier?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
no, it's like
2000.
2000.
That's a
Yeah,
2000.
Yeah.
2000s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is tantalum or is it steel?
No,
it's steel.
It's
Steel
steel?
yellow gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's the thing about like Royal Oaks as well, is like you can't really tell the
They
circa.
wear so well. I mean,
They do.
my gold one, which is so funny. You would think, oh, gold Royal Oak. That was the easiest. It's like so easy to wear. It's 26. You don't have a fear in the world where like it's nobody would look twice at it. But like that one's very, very vintage and No, they wear so well.
So I know that you explained that you were dating these two guys.
Yeah.
They both had Royal Oaks. You liked it. Your dad wasn't a fan. You get this watch. How did this watch exactly find its way into your collection?
Did he ask you why?
Why I got it? Oh, he knew.
Yeah, he knew.
He knew.
So, like, what was, in so many words that you want to share, how did you acquire this?
I hunted it down a bit. I hunted it down a bit, calling various stores.
Okay.
And then I really didn't want.
So you were looking for this exact model?
No, I didn't want diamonds, and I didn't necessarily know if I wanted that size. But that one came up. They called me and were basically like, "We have this," and I was like, "Well, that kind of works." and I was like, "Well, I'd be a fool to not take a 31 with diamonds if I got the opportunity." And it was unworn, so I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, and that's what's nice about it. So it's a 31 millimeter case size with diamonds around the gold bezel.
Do you have extra links for this?
I do.
I'm gonna borrow it.
Okay. I love how it looks on you. Like
that's awesome. And so this is wow. Yeah, this is something.
I love that watch. And
it's a beautiful piece.
If you look on the clasps, why it's outside clasp, why it has marks on it. The
right
is
here?
because I wear it on my right. And I'm a righty because my father is a lefty, and I saw it on his right growing up. So I always wear it on my right because of him.
Wow,
and that's
awesome.
why it got bumped up on the like clasp.
Yeah, no, I see.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I used to wear my watches on my right because I'm left-handed. My mom hated that I was left-handed. She always she always would try to get me to write with my right hand, and like it was just so natural.
Yeah.
And then when I would wear my watches on my right, she's like, "Men don't wear their watches on their right."
Oh,
that was a thing, though.
Really?
Like,
that was a thing.
Yeah.
That was a thing.
I mean,
was the switch hard?
It was hard in the beginning, but then I had this thing like I was like, I got to be a man. So I'm like, I'm wearing on my left.
I write with my left, but I wear my watches on my left.
Yeah,
not for that reason, but
just to show off. No.
Yeah, exactly. Just to flex. And you see me writing poetry, flick of the wrist. But that was the thing. I remember hearing that before. Like my aunt, who's a creative and who loves the show. She loves Rashawn, by the way. Shout out to Aunt Nancy. She calls him the chocolate drop.
She'd be in the comments section.
She's probably not gonna like that. Mention that. But I remember she used to tell me that like people in the past, if you wrote with your left, they would try to force you to write with your right.
Yeah,
and she
I think that I've heard that.
Yeah, she thought it was cool that I wrote with my left, and that's where we connected because we was like drawing images and stuff like that. So that's interesting. I didn't know that. I'm sorry you had to go through that, man.
It was like traumatic.
So your dad doesn't have any APs in his collection?
No.
Not a single one.
No, he won't do it.
Wow.
Yeah, he won't do it.
Do you know how many watches your dad owns?
No.
Too many to count, huh?
And I don't know how many I own.
Oh, wow.
I've counted.
Hey, listen, keep it that way.
I've counted. I'm pleading the fifth. I've counted a few times. But also, what's probably not the best to admit, I'm very liberal with my watches. Like I really, and my father instilled this in me. Watches are meant to be worn. They're not meant to sit in a safe.
Sure.
Like my Seamaster that I mentioned, which like obviously I wore during a very substantial part of my life, a significant part of my life, excuse me. My brother-in-law really loved Omega, and he loved that watch, and I gave it to him because
awesome.
I was like, it's sitting in a safe. I don't wear that watch anymore.
Yeah.
I'd rather have somebody wear it and enjoy it. So
Yes.
so like technically the number fluctuates.
Sure.
Yes.
But like,
Well, I think there was an article I came across recently too. There was a gentleman who was talking about sometimes the best way to enjoy a watch is let someone else wear it.
yes, because like there's nothing I like more than seeing someone like who you love wear something.
It does something
Yeah.
to you. It's
Mhm.
kind of nice when you see them. When I don't know. It's like
Ye-
seeing
like
your kid go off to
yeah.
college almost. It's like
you
Yeah.
get almost more
doing good.
more
Yes.
enjoyment out of seeing
You
someone you
do.
love wear your watch than you wearing
You
it.
do.
Which like that's very sweet.
No, it's very sweet.
Like
So I think this is cool though, because so your family has the watch bug,
mhm.
and you were able to build a deep connection with your father
Mhm.
through collecting watches. I remember I read in the Revolution article that your grandfather was also a watch collector.
Mhm.
I'm curious, did your dad get that from him? Was that something that was sort of passed down and like he connected with him through that and then
I
followed
think
through with
that
you?
he always talks about remembering what watch my grandfather wore, and like I think he had such a deep love for his
Mhm.
father, and so there was always that connection. And I think like some of his like strongest memories are talking about the watches he wore, and he still has the watches. He has the watches that his grandfather wore.
Mhm.
So like I think that like that was just such like I think he just loves having those and sharing that with me.
Because of all the memories that are attached to it.
Yeah, and I think that that's something, and like ironically, like he's even said, "Oh, you can wear some of theirs or da da da," and I won't do it because, like, to me, like out of all the things in the collection, that's what's the most sentimental because, like, I didn't get to meet my grandfather or my great grandfather for that matter, so like that's what's most sentimental to me, and like that's the one like lasting thing not only my father has but also I have,
Yeah.
and so I'm like I don't want to even like try them on because I want those to like. What's funny is like despite like watches are meant to be worn, that has so much more attached to it.
Sure.
That like I want that kept safe
No, absolutely.
or like worn for an occasion. Like I
But,
want to wear it for purpose.
exactly. Yeah, you want to like create your own memories with
Mhm.
it, right? And special like markers. But I think that's what's so cool, and that's the appeal that I have with like watch collecting, and it sounds like that may be the same thing with you. But the idea of like this whole family heirloom kind of thing, but something that was used, not something that was just hung up
Kept on
and
a wall.
but like something that this person that you care about or this person that is responsible, for the lineage of your family, that here are these things that they cared about that are being passed down and kept within the family. I think is really cool.
And I look at vintage that way too. Is to me, it's why I love vintage so much. Is I look at it as you're a custodian of it.
Yeah.
Is it had such a life before you, and like you owe it to the watch to like at least know a little about it and take care of it at some level because like had a life before you. Hopefully, it has a life after you, and like you're keeping this piece that. There are pieces from the 60s and 50s and even before that, like amazing chronographs that have gone that far that like they're meant to last. Like the least thing you could do is take care of it for the next person to enjoy it and love it. And like,
Yes, absolutely.
think of so many things like today they go obsolete in 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Whereas like our iPhones are done. It's not like you're passing an iPhone down to anybody, but like you're really a custodian of a watch.
No, you really are.
Yeah, it's built to last hundreds
It's a
of
great
years.
way to put it.
Yeah.
Great way.
And speaking of vintage, I know that you do have an affection for vintage timepieces.
Absolutely.
Are you just completely anti-modern or?
No, I mean full disclosure, I'm strongly wanting an elegant from Jorn right now.
Okay.
As my first independent, and
Makes two of us.
we can share.
Yeah.
And we both like diamonds, so it works.
I'll let you know how that
It's
goes.
a beautiful
I'll
watch.
let you know how it goes too, because I'm on the phone already.
Okay.
Well,
we got a race, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's double our efforts. But so that I love that brand, and like if I was gonna have an independent, I'd really love for it to be Jorn as my first. But vintage will always be my first love for everything. I just
what was it initially that got you going down sort of that rabbit hole of vintage watches? Was it like one particular piece?
No, not really. It was more of the idea that like this watch had a life before me, and like I really liked that, and like so many of my family members passed before I got to meet them that like I think that concept of just like thinking about what their life was like was always really prominent for me just because I never had that experience, that like thinking about like how pieces can have a former life as well.
Do you have like, so if like for me with vintage watches, I've kind of have like a short list. I have a hit list of watches that I want specifically. Part of the fun
is the hunt.
Yes.
100%.
So
and then you almost lose. You almost lose the. It's so unfortunate. You feel terrible saying it, but like the second you get something, you're like, what next?
Yeah, I know.
I need to hunt for something else.
Like, and what's ironic is like when I got my 1803, it was the first time in my collecting where I was like, I don't want anything right now. Like there's literally
that's good.
And like I was almost stunned because I'm like, and I almost wanted to write a piece on it. And like this is a grail watch to many for so many reasons. And I was like, I got a watch I've always wanted. Like what I got a watch I've always wanted at 25, which like is an unbelievable privilege, but also like what now as a collector? Like what now? Like what do I do?
You got so much life left to live.
Then I like waited 6 months and I was
like, here we go. Let's get it.
I know this is fleeting.
Found it.
But like I was like, shit, like this is kind of the first time like I had the hunt. I wanted this. Now it's like, okay, what? And like that was something my father was always worried about is like my first watch was not a Rolex because he was like, I don't find it appropriate for someone as young as you to have a Rolex because like what do you have to look forward to?
Yeah.
And when I was my first Rolex, he only let me wear on Fridays because he's like, it's not appropriate for you to have this.
Yeah.
Like, and like I really think that was very good parenting because he was like allowing someone who's very young, who it wasn't her finances, to have such a privilege to have these pieces and be around these.
He was kind of bringing you back down to earth and letting you know how serious this was.
He's like, what, you're going to wear it to 7-Eleven? Like, you don't need a Rolex. Like,
yes.
Oh, man.
But that was kind of shot to hell.
Yeah.
But it was very good while I was under his roof.
Sure,
like that.
Sure. And then you move out and you do your own thing.
And I get an AP and break
exactly.
Yes.
Part of what's also fun is about vintage is the deal. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I have walked on deals based on shipping. I am a frugal Jew to the end.
Good for
like
you.
I have literally walked on a deal because they're like, oh, shipping, and I'm like,
what was I'm curious what might have been, and you don't have to share prices or anything like that, but what was the one that you got in terms of your collection, vintage piece, here or not, where you got you brokered a deal for yourself and you're like, yes. Was there
the first half of my collection?
Okay.
I mean, I was so, because it was my dad let me do my own thing, and he would advise me obviously, but then he's like, you need to handle the financial aspect of it. Like you need to learn how to negotiate. You need to learn what the market value is, learn what you're willing to pay, like condition everything, and like. Yeah, it was pretty much the first half of my collection that wasn't new or wasn't
And where were
gifted
you
to me.
finding these watches? Was it on the internet? Were you visiting shops?
Everywhere. Like
Yeah.
I would hunt down everywhere to just find, and like luckily I was very fortunate, as you guys well know, 10 years ago, my God, you could get incredible stuff, and you kick yourself because you're like, my God, if you only had, the foresight you had that. But you get really good deals. And I think that's what a lot of people, though, who like heard the luster of Rolex or heard, and really not many people knew what AP was at that point or Patek.
Yeah.
They didn't realize you could get a Rolex for a very reasonable deal, especially compared to now. And that's what I chose to kind of spend money on then.
Nice.
And luckily, I've never been able to sell a watch. I have everything I've ever bought.
That's incredible. That's awesome. Yeah. So, we got a Rolex on the table.
The Rolex. A very special Rolex.
Is this the one your dad told you not to wear to 7-Eleven?
No.
Okay.
that was received a little after.
But this is a really special one.
Ironically, looking at it, I'd probably be fine wearing it to 7-Eleven because nobody would know.
No one would know what this is.
They recognize all the
but I recognize this watch. Rashawn has.
I brought that specifically for Rashawn.
I bet you did. He's got a two-tone turnograph.
Yes.
On bracelet.
And that is technically a two-tone turnograph.
It is.
Yes.
It is. It's got the gold bezel, gold
just
crown.
Not with me currently.
You've got the strap. But what's unique about this one is that it's double signed.
The dial is stamped.
Turn up the AC.
Dial is stamped. And hold on, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a Tiffany stamp.
It's not Tiffany. It's Cartier.
It's a Cartier stamp.
Cartier stamp.
I'm a Richemont girl.
Okay.
Hey.
So tell us a little bit about this. This is, you got this, you said, when you graduated?
I got this the summer after I graduated college.
Okay. That's a great college gift.
One of them, yeah.
Sure. We'll get to the other one later.
This one I got the summer after I graduated college in Lugano, Switzerland. I got it from a dealer who really worked in primarily modern, and I think he just didn't have many people interested in vintage, let alone 36 millimeters.
Wow.
And it was really right before the double signed craze. Right before it, because obviously I would have been completely priced out if it was now. And I think that's the same with so many collectors, is they've been just so priced out of pieces at this point. But I found this, I walked in and basically was like, done deal. Like,
so what I'm curious about too is before the craze, was it still something that collectors were seeking, or was it like the kind of thing where most people didn't want to be bothered with it?
I can't speak to the Cartier signed and the obviously Patek and Tiffany.
Sure.
That was huge.
Yeah.
I can speak to, though, from a price perspective, the women's pieces that were Tiffany signed or Cartier signed, there was not a premium on Datejusts. There was really not.
People were definitely looking for it. They didn't want to pay more for it, though.
Yeah.
They were
and they didn't get why.
They were looking as the signs as like a cherry on top.
Like a collab. Like it wasn't understood. And they didn't, like, you could get a 26 Datejust that was double signed for around the same price as a regular one.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an investment.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of like, the double stamp too, I think is really cool because it was that kind of one up. When you were amongst your circle and you were like, oh, I got this. And he's like, I got this. You ain't got this.
Yeah. And it's like, look close. It's the look closer.
Yes, it's the look close. It's the look close.
But also it speaks to, I think the person who would have bought this watch would have been a really big Cartier client.
Yes.
Right?
Well, and think about now, it's really wild to think that Rolex and Cartier would work together.
And that's what's so unique about these pieces now, especially with Rolex, is because this will never happen again.
Never happen.
Never. I mean, I have a double sign from Vacheron and Cartier, and even thinking, and they're two Richemont brands. So like ostensibly, if any watch company was going to do it again, it would be two in the same conglomerate. Yeah. But like, even it's like, no, there's no shot. That'll never happen.
No.
Like, and it's what, but like, and I love that element, that like thinking of like the person who would go in to Cartier or to wherever and buy a Rolex. I just think like that's such a that's so cool.
So cool.
That's awesome.
All the small jewelers out there that have signed dials too that no one even knows exist.
Well, they have so many cool double signed in South America. Those are some of the coolest.
South America,
Really? So, at what point did Cartier stop carrying Rolex?
I think it was the 80s.
In the 80s?
Yeah.
What year is this from?
60s.
60s. Nice. That's beautiful.
But if I'm not mistaken, that was like a super crazy, like, you have to be like the kind of guy who gets a crash now.
Sure.
Is a person who's getting a Cartier Rolex.
Back then?
It wasn't a thing.
Yeah, no. You had to be like a serious client.
Yeah.
Well, also too, and Ben can kind of fact check me on this, but if I'm not mistaken, Rolex originally, before they kind of went on as an independent watch company, they were a movement maker. So they did movements for a bunch of jewelers. And there was a point in time when, let's say, for example, if Ben had a jeweler and it was like Groulon Jewelers, he would go ahead and he would buy the movements from Rolex before it was Rolex. And it would just be stamped as like Groulon on top.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more complicated than that. So instead of making movements, Rolex is manufacturing whole watches.
Yeah, whole watches.
Didn't say Rolex on them. Rolex didn't start calling themselves Rolex until the 20s.
Yeah.
But the company was around in 1904.
Yes.
So from 1904 until then,
they were just producing watches.
Every watch that a jeweler or anyone purchased was stamped with the jeweler name on it. It's just everything else was manufactured by Rolex.
And then that's when there was that double stamped idea, because people would come into the, to the manufacturer and say, what is this watch? What is this watch? So then it was like, oh, it's Rolex. But then it'll be like Groulon Jewelers at the bottom.
Well, and you hear about some dealers or some antique hunters finding pieces, and then they pop open the case, and like it's not a signed watch, but then the movement says like Patek, or it says Rolex.
Wow.
Tiffany watches, where some Tiffany pocket watches from
have Patek, they
70s,
have Patek
80s,
movements.
have say Patek on the inside.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know until you pop it open.
Yeah, same as Patek doing the movements. They did movements for Rolex at a point too.
Well, like those clocks.
Those clocks, those industrial clocks.
The electronic clocks.
The funniest thing, because we share this timepiece. It sucks when you miss the date because there's not a jump hour. Does it not bother you?
I have, as a math nerd, I am so like OCD with things. I've let the watches go.
Yeah.
Because like my day date, like I just let it go. Like
Yeah.
and like if I'm in the place like sitting in a cab or something where I'm bored, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But like also like I travel a lot. And like I'm not messing around.
Fingers
with
are like
like I'm just like it's not. And I also change my watch quite frequently.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
like I'm just like that's fine.
Oh my goodness.
But the trick you were talking about is
The
the
wiggle
back
waggle.
foot,
the 12
Yeah,
to
you
go
back
past
to
midnight,
9.
Go back past 9.
I do have to do that with my
Yeah.
tutor to change the date.
Yeah.
And it in most cases it's all right until it's like what's
You're like
today, the
10 days
22nd,
off.
and I stop wearing it on like the 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is such a gem.
Does this
beautiful
one
piece.
have black enamel indices? Or is the
I don't believe so.
tritium
No,
just
no.
aged?
Yeah, it's just age.
That's crazy.
It's beautiful. Do you still have the bracelet for this?
Everything.
Nice.
Box papers,
papers,
everything,
incredible.
Everything.
Nice.
Mhm.
And this was a watch that you hunted.
No.
You didn't
I didn't know it existed.
She said she just walked into
I
just
didn't know
walked
it.
in.
I had no idea it
yeah.
existed. No.
Wow.
And the funny thing about that band is, I had gotten it, and I was going on another trip, and I took it to my Rolex guy, and he said, "Don't touch the bracelet." And because I have such a little wrist, I'd have to solder it to get the bracelet small enough because it was a '60s
Wow.
bracelet. So I went to the basement of Bloomingdale's because I
There
needed
we
a
go.
strap. $12.
There we go.
And I've never, and what's funny is I was like, oh, I'll just replace it when I get back.
Never took it off.
Never took it off.
I wore it in front of a very serious collector, and he's like, "That's a beautiful strap."
Yeah.
And I like I told him, and I'm like, "Well, I'm changing this when it like wears out because I'm like, and it looks. I have yet to find a strap that like I like the color, I like how it looks. It's $12 at the basement of Bloomingdale's.
Yeah.
Perfect. They got it done.
Before I got the bracelet on mine,
Mhm.
my timepiece was on like a snuff suede strap. That same exact color.
Mhm. It looks good, and it
looks
wears well. It wears
so
with
good.
everything. Like
Looks so good. I'm almost thinking about putting it back on that strap now.
Yeah, it's really good. So you got another another graduation watch.
yeah,
Baby's first Patek.
yeah.
Talk about this one. So I've never seen a Nautilus this small.
A baby, 26 millimeters quartz.
And
I
it's
think
beautiful.
people in Patek are rolling over in their graves that
Yeah.
they
You know who
made
would love
that.
this?
Who?
Ronaldo.
The king. I was gonna say the king
Right.
of quartz.
The king of quartz.
Yes.
Well, he's looking for that.
He's
that
looking
big
for
boy.
this, for the
Looking
big
that
boy.
3800.
Yeah.
You guys put it on though, and it works.
It does. It's nice.
I'll wear anything.
There's a
Yeah.
certain like it's a Patek Nautilus.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gorgeous though. I love the bracelet. And the clasp was even kind of funky.
And that was the only time they did that bracelet on a Nautilus because it's not the typical Nautilus
It isn't.
bracelet.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about this one.
So this is Baby Nautilus. Like I said, 26 millimeters quartz, has the classic garage door dial in gold. I got this as a early graduation gift at the beginning of my last semester, and my parents made me a deal earlier on. Is when we were talking about what my graduation gift would be, is I was like, well, I was trying to be mature and be like, oh, can I have like a deposit in a fund or something like that, which it's not actually what I wanted, but I was just I was trying to be mature. And then they made me a deal, and I had a very high ranking in my class, and they said, if you remain number 1 in your class, we'll get you a Nautilus.
Ooh, I like
Wow.
that.
And I did. So, and ironically, a good friend of mine, we were talking about various hype watches, and we're both very big fans of the Royal Oak, and we just think that fits us. I give him such credit because this was at peak Nautilus craze. He goes, Nautilus just isn't a me watch. And I was like, you know what? I don't think it's a me watch either. I think the Royal Oak is far more of a me watch, but I love every single thing this watch represents. From what I did in college, how I worked hard to get it, and like for that I'll always love it and I'll always keep it because and like it's not really a me watch, but like I do like how it looks. I do like, and like it means so much more than a watch. It
Mhm.
represents so much more. And so
Yes.
I think that's why I'll always have a special place in my heart for it.
Yeah.
And like that's a watch, speaking of heirlooms, that like I want to keep and pass down
Oh, for sure.
to someone who has so much, whatever the achievement is, whatever substantial achievement it is in their life, that's the watch that I would like to
Mhm.
give.
Tiny two-tone Nautilus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bryn.
I have to ask, because we have spoke about just like watch hype,
Mhm.
and there are a few timepieces that you have here where you said, you know, I never thought I would be interested in this. The idea of I think steel versus precious metal, because you own a lot of precious metal
Yeah.
timepieces. What is it about precious metal that like draws you in, or are you more driven? Like, would you ever wear like a steel watch? Is that like a thing?
I definitely don't mind steel watches. It's just a matter of, I think, like, I like how gold looks more. Like
Yeah.
it's just
I
a
love
look.
I don't
It's,
think anyone's gonna argue with
yeah,
you.
it's
on
No.
that.
just
Yeah.
just a looks thing, but also from a perspective of two-tone, it's realistically the only element of my purchasing of a watch that is anything with like logic is because that goes with everything. Two-tone will go with everything, so I don't need to worry about it.
Yes.
I mean, like when I got that watch was in a time where like people were a little picky about like matching metals.
Right.
Whereas like now I don't give like
And
I don't
people
care.
still kind of shit on two-tone watches, and I don't understand why.
You know, I got that watch and the guy I was dating goes, I don't like two-tone. They look fake. And I'm like, what?
And then
Yeah,
you
no.
dumped them.
I was gonna say that guy's not around anymore.
Stupid.
So what year is this piece, the Nautilus?
Good question. I think it's late 90s.
Yeah.
I'm pretty positive it's late 90s.
Yeah. It's got a 90s vibe.
Yeah.
Well, it's got quartz in it too, so
Definitely.
that's I think that's what makes for an interesting conversation too, because so many people don't realize that Patek did quartz watches.
Patek put
Yes.
quartz in an Aquanaut. So I
Yeah.
will never like
Ronaldo has one. He was on the show.
Patek is one of the people who started the quartz movement.
yeah.
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 Look, the 24 is their most popular watch.
Yeah.
That sells the most.
Yeah.
And like, I think the thing though that and we can touch back on this is like my mother, she's a massive fan of Cartier.
Mm.
She like has many antique Cartier pieces, but she has one Rolex because she goes, I love that it's quartz because I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
And like that's how she collects. She collects like she it doesn't matter how much she loves the watch.
Mhm.
If it does not have a quartz movement, she doesn't like it because she's like, that's what I care about in a watch.
Yeah.
And like there's some people who like what's funny is like being in this industry, a lot of people raise their nose to quartz, but I'm like, there are so many people who like that's what they look for because that's
Yeah.
what matters
Well,
to them.
like
And
this guy we had in the show, Ronaldo, we did an episode with him called The King of Quartz. That's all he collects.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
only collects quartz watches.
Yeah.
And then he finds like some really like obscure like luxury pieces that you would have never thought that they did quartz.
just the argument to it is
Yeah.
there's a quartz Aquanaut. There's a quartz Nautilus.
Mhm.
That's all kind of
Well,
you need to say.
Yeah,
like,
but also it's like quartz is such a convenient thing. Like, who
oh,
cares?
it's the
Yeah,
most
it's so
convenient.
convenient.
And like whenever one of my friends is looking for a watch, their first watch, I always say, you know, I always give them the warning of the service because I think that's something people
It's a
don't
maintenance fee, yeah.
realize.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
like quartz, it's $20. It's a battery.
Yes.
So
That's
like
it.
there's something really appealing about that. And also, if you're not used to having a watch, if you're not used to setting a watch, quartz is really, really nice.
Yes, it
It
is.
is.
Yes, it is.
You just
Very
grab and
convenient.
go.
Yeah.
Grab and go.
You
Super
set it,
convenient.
you reset it twice a year.
Yeah.
Daylight savings time. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you
For
gotta
sure.
do.
For
You
sure.
know, and it's incredible. So that's awesome.
Mhm.
We've got one watch left,
Mhm.
and I love that you brought this watch because one of my favorite things when looking at someone's collection and seeing the diversity of watches is seeing diversity in price point,
Mhm.
diversity in class of watches, and it's another quartz watch.
Mhm.
This is one I was actually after for my daughter. Who was with me earlier today, and we were shopping at Swatch, and I got her a new Flick Flag. And they actually, Flick Flag makes, they have a new watch that they do that looks similar to this, but we got a Parchi.
Mhm.
I love Parchis.
I do too.
I think they're so cool.
You know what? It was one of the first watches in a long time that just brought a real big smile to my face.
Really.
And like I feel like something that you kind of lose sight on being in this and collecting, and I haven't collected nearly as long as many people. You see so many watches
Mhm.
and they almost just become, oh, like seeing a 1675. I remember the first time I saw that, I fell in love with that watch. Or like
Yeah.
even a 6542, which is kind of like the Mac Daddy of Pepsi bezels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're used to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas
Yeah.
like
Yes.
you don't get that childlike joy that you used to. And like that watch to
That
me
excitement.
and like that brand was created by someone who's so knowledgeable about watches, knows her stuff so well.
Mm.
And to go not back, but to say this is what I love, this is what makes me happy, this is what I want to put into the watch industry, I think is such a poignant statement.
Wow.
And like it's so whimsical and fun, but like I've worn it all summer. I wear it to travel because it's just so easy. And like, I look down and like, it kind of makes a statement that like, and I said this to a friend of mine who recently ordered a watch that was so the opposite of him. And it's so whimsical and so playful. You're not a collector if you can't just buy something that makes you happy.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
You're not like, what the hell is the point of collecting if you can't just buy something that makes you
Some don't
happy?
even like doing it.
It can't be too serious all the time. You got to have some fun.
It's such a privilege to be able to do this, that the least thing you can do is be like, no, I don't care what anybody thinks.
Well,
I'm going to wear this.
That's how I first felt with the announcement of the Moon Swatch.
Mhm.
And I felt like people ruined
Yeah.
it, but I still enjoy
People
it. But
did
when I
ruin
saw
it.
that,
Yeah.
Comments on
it was
Instagram.
just like, oh, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The Speedmaster and colors, like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
You know, when I was at Watches and Wonders, a friend of mine who works at Philips, he had that watch and he was wearing another. I was at a table with everyone from QP Royal Oaks to RMs.
Sure.
Everybody took their watches off because they wanted
They
to
wanted to
try
try
that
that
on.
on.
I bet
they
And like
did.
that
Sure.
says the power, because I don't think people realize you could not call in a favor for that watch. You
No.
had
No.
to go and wait in line. And
No
like,
one had the power.
No
No.
one had the power.
And you know what?
Flash
But
didn't give a
they
fuck.
had the procedures.
But like, but I respect Watch for being like, no, like you need to go wait. And like I think that was such like a flex of being like, I was humble enough to go wait in line.
Yes.
And
We all were.
it's still a flex when you know how they're still selling it today,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? When you know the procedures,
Mhm.
because you can go get you can go get a Moon Swatch today. A lot of people are like, you still can't get one. No, you can. There's a way you have to go about doing it,
Mhm.
and you know they're giving the power to the people.
Yes.
So I kind of respect it.
Yes.
It's such a fun time. I think, you know, when I look at Parchi and what you just said, it's such a fun time for watches. You know, when you see brands like a Studio Underdog,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
or you look at what Swatch Group just did with the Moon Swatch, you know, where it's like you can have these brands or these pieces come out and it's just about the experience.
Mhm.
It's just about having fun. It feels nice. It
Mhm.
feels good to walk into a room and to just not take yourself so seriously, but to wear something and look at it and say that's really cool. It does remind me of when I was a kid. It reminds me of, you know, why I started collecting watches when I started with like G-Shock.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, you just want a cool looking
Well,
watch.
I'm like, here's the thing. It's walking into a room and saying the same 3 steel sports watches.
Yeah.
It's like, I would so go up to someone if a guy was wearing a 26 millimeter Nautilus, that's who I'd go talk to, because like
Yes.
it says something about them.
Yeah.
It says like, no, I want to have fun, or like I
Yes.
want to do this, or like I don't care what anybody else thinks. This is what I'm wearing. This is what I love. And like, it's not to say that, look, they're the 3 most popular steel watches for a reason. Like
Mhm.
there's a reason, but
For sure.
like have some fun.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. You can't be that serious.
And so this was your most recent acquisition.
yeah.
Yeah. And so
And I've had the most fun with it. Honest to God, it has been so fun to wear this summer. Like it is, it's brought me back. And like, ironically, this summer has been like a bit of a summer of experimentation in watches, because I went 3 weeks without wearing a watch.
oh wow.
Because because for the first time in like 12 years, I didn't wear one. A friend of mine is a very serious collector. The countless times we've gone out to dinner, he's never worn a watch.
Absolutely.
And I was kind of like thinking to myself, I'm like, why doesn't he wear a watch? And I'm like, because he's with friends. He has nothing to prove. Like he has nothing. He doesn't care. And I didn't wear a watch. When I tell you, it was like such a liberating 3 weeks where
Wow,
really?
you're so used to the weight on your wrist at this point,
Yeah.
where like I was just like, oh my gosh, like it was kind of fun, because like that doesn't make me any less of a collector that I didn't wear it. And like that's what I had to remind myself, because I was like, I wear a watch to sleep. Like that's so like if I don't wear any other accessory, I'll wear a watch. And like the fact that this was the first time in 12 years I wasn't wearing a watch anywhere, it was kind of like, doesn't take away that I'm not a collector. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't
no,
take
not at
away,
all.
but like, it's kind of like you could be into a certain sneaker brand or you could be into a certain clothing brand, but just because you're not wearing it at that time or you're not driving that car or you're not carrying around a piece of art doesn't
Sure,
mean your
exactly.
passions any less.
No.
And like,
Yes.
I think with watches, it's such like a, oh, I want people to see, or like, if I walk into a room with the watch people, I want people to like, and like, I wore a watch. I didn't wear a watch to lunch somewhere with a watch person. They're like, oh my God, why aren't you wearing a watch? I'm like, no, I'm just not.
Yeah.
I think it's
Like-
also cool to see people's reactions to it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's kind of fun to mess with them.
Mhm.
You know, especially if you walk in a room full of serious collectors and you're either not wearing a watch, you're wearing like a swatch or something like that. And then you see.
Well, it was a line in John Mayer's Second Talking Watches where he basically said like, oh, well, if you get this watch, it's basically like, this would be the ultimate cheater watch because it's basically assumed you have tons of heavy hitters at home.
Oh,
Yeah,
But
for
like,
sure.
if you
Yes,
only
yes.
have this one, and I'm like, shit, we should have all thought of that.
Exactly. Exactly.
But like, it's to say like, there could be a hell of a collection at home, but it's just like, no, I don't feel like
But
wearing
also,
it.
I imagine like, you know, and I've got 16 watches now. There comes a point too when, you know, you're collecting and you're looking at all this and it's like, it's great.
Mhm.
You love it, but you want, there's like this, I don't know, I get this urge, there's this calling in for something that's just like different,
Yeah.
weird, obscure,
Yeah.
you know, not so serious.
You want someone to not know. Or
Exactly.
like it be a brand nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
Or like you just say, no, I just found this on eBay, or like I
Mhm.
found this at a garage sale. And like
Yeah.
I just was drawn to the shape.
Yeah.
Like no, not because the brand, not like to buy something because the brand didn't appeal, or like because I think like all of us at this point get so bitten by that, or like so
Absolutely.
sensitive to that. Whereas like
Mhm.
just to buy something because you're like, no, I just liked it.
Mhm.
Like I
Yeah.
just, and like I think, but that goes back to you're a true collector if you could do that.
Yeah.
And
I
like
mean,
it's important to not
this
lose
dude's
sight
got 50 something watches.
of.
Got a lot of watches.
Yeah. But that's, you know, it's like what I love about him. It's like I shoot him a thing of like the electricians and he's like, this is hot. This is hot.
This is hot.
What's next for JJ?
In
In
terms,
terms of watches, collecting.
well, I have to knock out Ben for an elegant
There
apparently.
you go.
We're working together, not against each other. We're working
I've
together.
met my competition.
There we go.
We're working together.
But I that's kind of what I'm aiming for
Mm.
next. Is an elegant with diamonds.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I'll
like-
take the one without
The
diamonds. It's
Nacha
fine.
has
We'll
that
share
one.
it.
That one's
Um,
awesome.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
love, speaking of like what we spoke on about a gold watch, is like it's quartz. There's such an irreverence to the fact that it's quartz, but
Mhm.
like it's so cool. And like the idea of like I'm really fascinated by a watch that like just looks so good with a t-shirt and jeans, because
Yeah.
that's like what I live in most of the time. So
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
that watch, just like you really don't need anything else. Like if you're wearing that, it's kind of like with a gold watch, you really don't need anything else.
You don't. No, no.
Like-
no.
Yeah.
You got your everyday watch.
Mhm.
I'm curious, what's your Grail watch? Do you have one?
Yeah, 60-62.
Okay.
Really? Wow, I did not expect that.
Yeah, a 60-62 with a stelline dial.
Ooh.
I have so many opinions on what Rolex did in the 50s, namely because I think that if there wasn't the popularity of the 1675, the 6542, they would have really gone into more pieces like the 60-62,
Sure.
because like you look at the talent, the craftsmanship, and the skill level
Beautiful.
of being able to create something like that in the 50s. I mean, that was like the most advanced computer.
Yeah.
That technology is so impressive that I think that if there wasn't the popularity of sports watches, but like that's what was needed at that time,
Mm.
they would have gone into it. Like think about Rolex doesn't really do that many complications even now, and they've
No.
never really dabbled into that, because I think sports watches, that's where their bread and butter is, and that's
Absolutely.
what they're popular with. But like looking at some of their stuff from the 50s, oh my, it's just the most beautiful
If they
thing.
would have sold more of that stuff, it'd be a different Rolex.
Yeah.
Well, that's what makes it so cool about collecting vintage Rolexes
Yeah.
too. I mean, just like aesthetically, I mean, there's so much craftsmanship and beauty in those pieces back then, and they still have it today. I think, you know, sometimes I can personally take it for granted because they're easy to rip on with the
Mhm.
popularity and the hype. But when you look at what they did back in the day, it's just like it's so awesome.
I also like, not a me watch, but recently the novelty I love that came out was the AP Music watch.
Oh, you like that
I have
one?
no
Okay.
beef against that watch. I
Okay.
think that watch is fine.
But there's two versions.
I got
Which one do you like?
I got, after I made a comment on the Instagram, I got many photos of Tetris sent to me
Sure.
via text.
my
And I was
goodness.
like, everyone needs to just stop.
Everybody's
Like,
to chill.
I think that I like when a watch brand has fun and tries something
well,
different.
AP has a lot of fun.
You know what?
Yes.
As we bonded at
Yeah.
the AP breakfast, I absolutely love that brand. I'm like a ride or die for them and everybody who works there. But like the Black Panther is a great example for me of
Yep.
I fell asleep during the Avengers. I am probably
Mm.
the last AP client that watch was made for. But looking at that watch in person,
Yeah.
you cannot deny the insane craftsmanship
Yeah.
and like just charisma and creativity and courage that watch took.
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
look at the
And,
one
like,
that they auctioned off too.
yeah.
All the hand engravings.
I
Well,
mean,
even
it's
there was
nuts.
the what's the designer Carolina
Bucci.
Yeah.
her watch I thought was fire.
Oh,
I love that.
I love
piece.
her jewelry. I love her so much, and I think that her. I'm glad AP has continued to work with her, and she's continued to work with AP because those watches are
It
just.
was her idea to do
stunning.
the frosted
Mhm.
cases and
And then they continue.
bracelets,
Yeah,
yeah.
That's
it's
awesome. It was
Stunning.
like
yeah,
a
that
one-time
watch got a
run.
lot of hate, but I
her
thought it was
her
awesome.
jewelry is really good too.
You know, she's
Mhm.
incredibly talented. She's
Like-
got an amazing eye. All right, tight.
Yeah.
Shoot, this went by too fast.
So, wait, let's keep it going because I have a question about the watch that
Please.
you have that you didn't bring that I'm upset about.
All right, so what watch is this?
I took the like subconscious request from Rashawn.
So,
I didn't know I was.
It's a watch that you've worn when we've hung out. It's a Rolex and it's red.
Oh yeah,
What is this?
my forgotten stepchild.
Oh.
It's probably my favorite thing that I've seen you wear.
What is
Shit,
this?
Fire.
I
What
would've
is
brought
it?
So we've had
Whoa,
many talks about it.
come
No.
on.
It's a custom dial. And
Oh,
I bought it like 34 millimeter precision custom dial on a Jubilee. I bought it when Barney's did the whole like color dials.
okay.
Bought it when I was 20. I loved that watch more than anything in the world. Like it was so much fun. It was such an easy watch. I stopped wearing it obviously because like people were very anti custom dial, and I
Sure.
became
Man,
sensitive.
fuck 'em.
I became sensitive
Oh,
to
now I
that.
wish you did bring
Yeah.
it.
But like
Yeah.
I wore it to Oyster Day with
Yeah.
Oris.
It's just a Rolex Oyster Precision.
yeah, with a
With
with
a
a
red
really
dial.
good like red dial.
Like rich, like that Cartier red
Wow.
dial. It's so good.
And I wore it again that day, and I hadn't worn it in a long time, and I said to you guys, I was like, I love wearing this. I just haven't worn it in so long. But like I was like, you know what? I don't care. Like I wanted to like honestly do a post about it and be like, I recognize it's a custom dial. Like I recognize this. Like
Sure.
I'm not trying to hide that. Like
Yep.
and like anyone with any intelligence knows Rolex didn't do this.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
but like oh my gosh, it's such a fun watch, and like it goes back to like I wish collecting, and I think it's going the right way. Like you see a little bit more of an acceptance of like aftermarket and custom dials, where like just be honest about it. But like that doesn't make it any less. That doesn't make it
the
like
thing.
if it's what
That-
you like,
yeah.
go for it.
Yes.
But it goes off into such a strange place because what it does, it assumes that that you should only buy a watch if you intend to sell it at some point.
Yes,
Mhm.
and,
And so that's why
look
you
at
should
what
keep it
I've
as
never
factory.
done it. So
Yeah.
it's like
But it's just like if you buy a watch to
Because
wear
you like it.
because you
Yeah.
like it,
That
and at
is the
some
point.
point you want to customize it.
Yeah.
Why not? And we talked about Virgil Abloh in that light too. When you look at what he did with his AP, and then
His
the
Nautilus.
look at Mad Design, but then
Yeah.
Mad
what
Paris.
George Bamford used to
Yes,
do with
I know.
Rolex.
Bamford, if I'm not mistaken, it was Bamford. I probably
That did
I could be
Rolex?
wrong. For Supreme, the original, the Submariner.
I don't know.
Whoever did it, it was in a Rolex Supreme collab. It
Uh-huh.
was Supreme
Yeah.
bought
Yeah,
20 of them,
Yeah.
sent to somebody, and they customized them.
Mhm.
And
It was
you-
Bamford that did it
I think it was Bamford.
I remember.
But
with
to
the
your
fuck
point,
'em.
Yeah.
to your
Yeah.
point, George Bamford was doing all the Rolexes. His
He was,
personal
yeah.
Rolex is a solid gold Yachtmaster with Popeye.
With the
Popeye. Yo, the
It was-
Popeye-
I
Popeye is
remember
legit.
walking into Colette in Paris when I was like 16 or 17.
Mhm.
Go back to that magic haven of a store.
Yeah.
I remember. I know Sarah who used to own. Yeah, We go way
That was
back.
Colette's
Collette's a
magical
special
place.
Colette
place.
was a loss greater than Barney's.
yeah.
Yes.
But it was, I remember walking in and seeing those watches, the
Mhm.
blacked out Rolexes,
Mhm.
and I just remember being like, as a 16-year-old, like yucked up brat, being like, "Oh my god, this is the coolest thing in the world!" Like just
My
thinking like,
favorite-
"Oh my god, they were so cool." And
Yeah.
like,
My favorite custom Rolex anything was a Colette Mad Paris collab on a Milgauss.
Yeah,
they
with
sandblasted
the
the case.
yeah.
And it's a white dial, Colette blue Rolex crown, and all the numbers are falling.
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
yes,
And on the
yes.
dial it says, "It doesn't matter.
It
I'm
doesn't
late
matter, yeah.
anyway."
Yeah, that was good.
That's my favorite thing.
Where did we see Bamford Rolexes recently? We were together, I think.
Probably
Sotheby's
Yeah.
had them.
Sotheby's.
It was, but it was somewhere else too. Like
I remember we went. I
They're
remember.
hard to
It was
come by.
But
weird.
it wasn't
Like-
Bamford though. It was Mad.
Oh, was it
It
Mad?
was Mad.
It was.
yeah.
It was like, and it was
We
just out
saw
of nowhere.
black-
Like,
we
just
saw-
didn't expect it.
We saw blacked out Milgauss at Rainbow Indices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
it was. We was like, whoa, this is hot.
Yeah, it was some hole in the wall boutique. We walked
You
into.
okay?
What
Wow.
the fuck is this?
Yeah,
They
it
had like
was-
5 against the wall. We were like,
Wow.
okay.
Exactly. It was like 5 against the wall. I can't remember where we were. It'll come back to us, but I was like,
Yeah.
yo, this is hot.
Feature.
I
want to
go.
Yes.
Feature in Vegas in the Wynn Hotel. They're like a upper end boutique. They sell also Mad.
So
Paris
this gives me
Rolexes.
an idea. Let's talk about something interesting real quick for everybody. If there was one watch you could customize, which watch is it? What would you do to it?
Fuck.
That's tough.
Create your own watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole episode.
No, you take a watch and you customize it. Which
Yeah, you
watch
use one
would
as
you
a
I
customize?
mean,
base.
like, I need to say, like, the pieces that Artisans de Genève do,
Yeah.
they did a sub where
Mhm.
they made
The moon phase.
a moon phase with an aventurine
Yeah.
dial.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, I
like
think I saw that one. That's good. They also did a date just with no date. Do you remember that
Yeah.
one? I was like, I don't get it.
It's just
They
an
completely
OP.
took the date wheel out.
What's
Yeah.
hard is I think I would just want like an OG blacked out Bamford sub.
Yeah.
Like that says like 2JJ.
Oh.
Love
Oh.
George.
Oh,
That's-
Love that. Nice.
There we go.
There we go.
George
Okay.
Bamford. We know
That's-
you're listening.
That's good.
Make this happen.
Like that's my dream. Yeah.
That's good. What about you?
My mind's going crazy right now.
Really?
There's
Yeah.
too many.
Hmm.
Come back to me.
The elegant that says to Ben, love JJ.
There we
That's how I give him
go.
my-
To Ben, love JJ.
Yeah. An FP.
Love
I think,
JJ
yeah.
and FP. Fuck, that'd be
You
good.
do you have something? That might be an episode.
Well, remember
Yeah, that's
when
good.
I had sent something in the chat
Hmm.
that interesting Explorer 2
Hmm.
with that crazy floral like
So I know I don't know that artist personally, but I
Yeah.
know people who have purchased bracelets from him.
yeah.
So those are all just custom bracelets.
Custom
that he
bracelets.
does. Yeah.
But I think I would do it, I think I would do like maybe like some kind of like hand engraved, like, I don't know, crazy, I don't know, Rolex or something. Just like maybe like a
Kind
floral.
of has to be a Rolex.
It has to be a
Mine
Rolex.
would be a
I would
Patek.
love for it to be a
Yours be
Rolex.
what?
Mine would be a Patek.
It would be a Patek.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think I'd do an engraved. Well, hold on. Let me get a little crazy. Titanium Aquanaut.
I knew you were gonna
But-
go there.
I would use the 5650 as a base.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it'd be a semi-open worked Aquanaut in titanium
Pretty good.
What about
in
you?
black.
Oh man.
Yeah, you can't hit us with all the hard questions.
I'm telling you,
without
this is
the
gonna be
answer.
an episode. where
Yeah,
we're
we
gonna-
gotta
we're
be
gonna have
episode.
to think
I don't
of-
know.
You can spit one out now, and then we'll later on next season we'll make it a little thing.
You
We
know
should
what,
make
those-
it. We should make it a
episode.
game.
Yeah.
But I know what brand
To
I would
draw
I
it
would,
out,
I would
like, in
work
30
with.
seconds.
I don't know what I would do, but I know what brand I would do a Tudor.
Oh.
I would customize a Black Bay 58.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. With a bracelet with real rivets.
Would they stretch?
No shade. Huh?
Would they stretch?
Maybe.
You gotta have stretch.
Sure. But I would do a Black Bay 58.
Wait, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Because I was asked this recently, and I'm like, shit, I've never been asked this. If you were one watch, what watch would you be?
A day
If I were a watch?
Yeah, like if
That's a good question.
Yeah, I was asked it by like someone who wasn't into watches, and I was like, that's a really good question.
I think if you could, a more fun version of that is to ask someone else what watch you are.
Oh, I like that more.
Because I don't know what
Yeah.
watch am I? If I were a watch.
Well,
what do you guys
I said what JJ just said, and I just blurted out Day Day, but I
Yeah.
think Day Day could go for everybody in this room.
Yes.
I don't think
I'd
I'm
be
a date.
I'd be a Malachite
Yeah,
date.
you would be. Yeah.
I'm a date.
Yeah, we all are.
No, you know what? I feel like
We're
you
all
could be
very
a Tudor
iconic,
Yeah, there we go.
powerful watches.
I think
Sure.
that's a
I
date.
think you'd be a platinum date.
I'd be a platinum date.
Ooh.
Wow.
What does that say about who I am?
Stealth wealth. That's what that
Respect.
says.
I feel like you would be like the white gold with the icy blue dial because that could be a vibe.
Yes.
Be a vibe.
Like,
Give me some baguettes.
No, you don't do diamonds.
I don't think I'd be platinum
No.
because I mean I'm
Yellow gold?
Huh?
Yellow gold?
maybe just,
I'd probably be white gold.
yeah, white. Like,
Okay,
just
you'd be
1803
white gold.
Like Vincent.
Rashawn would be a Tridor.
I could be a Tridor with a chocolate dial.
Rashawn would be a chocolate dial, baguette indice Tridor.
Yeah.
That's me.
Okay,
I love
you get
You'd
yellow or
be-
platinum.
You'd be a Stella Dial date.
Okay.
I would
For
do
sure.
a Stella Dial white gold.
What dial?
I don't know.
I see JJ as Oxblood.
Yeah, or lapis.
You know what though? There
You
was
could do
that.
malachite. That could be.
I'm a malachite guy,
Malachite's
but there
fire.
was that. There was that.
that
I
white
don't-
marble yellow gold.
No, there was a. I don't remember if it was a date or a date just that we saw. There was a. It was it was a stone dial
Mm-hmm.
and it was green and red.
That's Oxblood.
That's the oxblood.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm oxblood.
Oxblood's fire.
I think I'm oxblood. Yeah, I think that's.
Now I think I want to. Now I think I want to Tridor.
We, maybe that's the name of the episode. I think I want to
Maybe
try
I
it. JJ, this has been fun.
Tons.
Appreciate you coming
Such a
through.
pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
You're the absolute best.
Yes, we always have
Um,
lots of fun. We hang
We
out.
always have lots of fun. Wish you much continued success in this industry. If I can borrow a phrase from Dime Piece, can't wait to see when we're all at the top what the glow up looks like. Because
As long as you guys are there.
we
with
will
me.
be
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely
facts.
100%.
Yes.
This has been a ton of fun. Watchonista just released their second magazine.
Yes.
So shouts out to them.
Please go
and you
pick it
guys.
up at any of the IWC boutiques.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Super exciting time.
Mhm.
Can we expect more like that from Watchonista?
Yes,
It's coming?
more.
Okay.
How often they coming?
It'll be once a year. So, and we'll, continue extending a lounge section, which means more content for people who not just are interested in watches, but cars, spirits, lifestyle,
Oh,
to
that's
really
awesome.
get
Mhm.
people who maybe aren't super knowledgeable about watches, but have a little interest, get them involved in a way. Because
Tight.
the more people involved in watches, the better.
Yes.
Amazing. This has been incredible.
Mhm.
Episode 35. For all of those listening and watching, thank you for supporting us as always. If you don't know where to find us, you can find us on Instagram at WristCheckPod. We're on YouTube. Just search WristCheck Podcast. Same for Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and we're also on Stitcher now. Where else are we at? We're on Pocket Cast.
Everywhere.
TikTok for the kids.
We're on
For the
TikTok for the children.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week. This has been fun. Episode 35.
Woo.
Peace.
Deuces.